Welcome to What to Say and How to Say It, the podcast to help you fix your marriage. I'm Shai Lewis. I'm here with Nina Rosner. Our mission is to help you, Christian married man or woman, navigate conflict and build connection so you can have a thriving marriage. All right, so today we're talking about 3 ways to build your confidence in tough situations. We're going to talk about what the world says. We're going to talk about what God says, and then the context of that in your relationships. I'm excited to talk about this with you today, Nina. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm excited about it. I love the topic. And the reason I love it so much is that 95% of the people that go through our training say the biggest thing that they got out of it was more confidence. And that's literally not just been greater impact, but also the Dale Carnegie stuff. Like we're using pieces of that method and it just works. And it is a wonderful thing to see people blossom in their confidence. So I'm stoked about the topic.
Yeah. So before we get into that, I want to mention to our listeners our website, greaterimpactwives.org, where you can find a free PDF called 5 Tools for How to Stop Walking on Eggshells. I also want to mention that we have an exciting conference coming up. It's our annual Strength and Dignity Conference. We get together once a year and just kind of leave our daily routines and gather together and just talk about all the things. And, it's just a giant sleepover. So if you're interested in joining us, that's also on our website. And then we also have a free marriage assessment for you to fill out, where you learn more about where you are in your marriage and maybe get some ideas on how we might be able to help you out. So check that out. And let's get back to our topic about confidence. So I don't know about you, Nina. If you've ever been around someone they just exude confidence, whether it's in their body posture, their language, just their personality. It's so nice to see. I feel like it's a wonder sometimes if you know, maybe struggle in that area or you're trying to improve in that area. The thing about confidence, I think that a lot of us mistake is that you either have it or you don't, that it's like you're born with it. And so, in my experience, I've come to learn that it's actually something you can build and get really good at. And I know that, like you said, a lot of women come to us who may have struggled in that area because of their situations, or maybe the church has told them they need to behave in a certain way. And so they may even naturally have it, but they sort of hold back because they've been told it's not okay. And so what do you think is the best way to go about when we have a woman like that and letting her know it is okay to be confident?
Yeah, that I'm so glad you brought that up. Um, the there's that attitude in some churches that women are to be seen and not heard. And honestly, there's a little bit of truth to that, because some of us just talk too much, and I say us because I think I could fit in that, you know. Uh,
Mhm.
but the point of confidence isn't really, does everybody see me? The point of confidence is, am I secure? It's literally a lack of thoughts of self. It's really just being about God's business and not being worried about what other people are thinking. And
Mhm.
all of humanity, every person that you run into has some insecurities in some places. There's a lot of people that are very confident because they're just not thinking about themselves. And I'm so blessed because I've got a ton of folks in my life like that. People I hang out with, that I work with. And then on top of that, I ride horses with people that are confident. And I think that's a space where that comes with work and to a certain degree, kind of naturally, but with a lot of work, because if you're not confident, your horse knows, and then you can get killed. So you kind of have to choose to be the man your horse needs you to be, basically. And as you step into that, then you discover, oh, this isn't about me. Like, what does this animal need from me? And then at church or at home, it's what do my people need from me? Not what do
Mm.
I need, want, whatever. So if we stay focused on our insecurities, then we're going to have more of that, right? But it's a process you go through and it's worth doing. Definitely.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that the horse can tell when you're not confident. And can you talk a little bit more about that? How, because I feel like, we can tell, obviously, people can tell when you're really confident versus when you're not, but it's interesting that animals can also tell as well.
Hmm. Yeah. So there's a I think they can read our heart,
Mm,
and there's and horses are such calming creatures because their hearts are so ginormous, and you get within a few feet of them and it just calms you unless you have a high anxiety horse. And then that's not, I've ridden one of them and they're not that fun. Um, they're just constantly on the lookout. It's kind of like owning a German Shepherd, or a Malinois. They're just on alert for threat all the time. And that's exhausting. But when you're a source of strength and you're on the horse, that you don't hesitate with what you want. You know
mm,
exactly what you're not worrying about them. You're not looking at their head. You're not wondering about the ground. Like they've got their job to do. Your job is to figure out where are we going? How, let's go over here. And you're seated confidently and your heart rate is low and you're not anxious. Like you can get excited,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm,
then once that's like when you gallop across the field, then you have a moment of excitement. It takes a little bit, not too long, a couple minutes for that to dial down, but it does. If
mm,
you're anxious like all the time, then that lingers and your heart rate stays elevated. And that's no fun for you or the horse. And then the thing that we have to realize is that if we have kids, that anxiety that we have, if we're not confident in a situation, that's getting sent out electromagnetically through our emotions, and our kids pick that up. It's science now. There's a group called Heart Math, where you can actually go to their website and read about it, dig into some of the studies that they've done on that, and discover, oh, that whole thing about when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy is actually based on some truth. There's science with it.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Is it ever okay to pretend to be confident? Like,
absolutely.
all right,
Sorry, I was a little enthusiastic. Like,
tell me
you
more
didn't
about
even
that
think that.
because,
Yeah.
I feel like we can tell the difference when it's real and when it isn't.
Mhm.
But even if it's not real, there's still some effect, it sounds.
Yeah. So it depends on the context, depends on the people there, depends on just your ability to take your thoughts captive. But we have a saying, and this was from Dale Carnegie. When I was a Dale Carnegie trainer, we'd say, fake it till you make it, meaning
Mm,
you got to get up there and you got to get outside your comfort zone. You don't feel like doing that. Like, who wants to? But what would it look like
mhm,
to act
mhm.
as if you did? So choose that and fake it till
Yeah.
you make it. And the funny thing is that once you start, like 4 seconds in, you're not faking it. It just is. The energy's there. You're having fun with it. You've chosen and you've stepped onto that journey. That's the road you're on, is that choice of joy, positivity, energy, confidence, whatever.
Hmm.
It's a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like the do it afraid thing,
Yep.
right? Even if there's fear or anxiety or hesitancy, you can still make the decision to do the thing,
Hmm. Well, the
right?
Bible tells us to take courage, and that's a step in becoming brave or confident. So
Mm,
if being brave is an absence of fear and being confident is an absence of thoughts of self, then choosing to take confidence, or I'm sorry, choosing to take courage means I'm going to show up scared and do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. And as soon as you get into that, 4 seconds in, you're swept into the energy of doing the right thing and you're focused on the right stuff. And then you're not thinking about yourself. And then you are that.
Mm, you are that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about self-worth and how that also plays with what we say about confidence and how the world defines it. So the world says that self-worth is your sense of being good enough. And a lot of times, those of us that struggle with that will show up in our situations afraid, or will show up with low expectations. And oftentimes it's said, well, this person isn't confident. Is that something that you would agree with, or is it an issue of, the environment they're in, or maybe a lie they believed, or some healing work that they need to do? Are those two the same thing, or are they different in your opinion?
So that's a great question. The self-worth not being good enough thing,
Mm-hmm.
that is a lack of confidence
Mm,
because I'm judging myself as not worthy. And my thoughts are about myself,
mm-hmm.
which then I'm not confident. I'm worrying about this, that, and the other. Um, so in that sense, yeah, they're pretty similar. And at the same time, you can have confidence in certain areas and still have other areas where you have a low sense of identity or low self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you see that with people that are one person at home and another person at work or church.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that confidence is really not about us. And I think that's also like a misunderstanding, that we think it's about self-assurance. It's about who we think we are versus, maybe what God says we are.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of speaks to the Godfidence word that we like to throw around,
Oh,
and
sure.
and how, you know, at the end of the day, it's not really us showing
Mhm.
up in our situations, it's really him, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
we have a secret source that we can draw from.
Yep.
So one of the things that I learned in coaching is that the more you do the hard thing, the more your confidence is built,
Mhm.
which is kind of counterintuitive, because we think, well, we have to have it first before we do the hard thing, but it actually gets built up. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that works?
Yeah. So we're basically proving to ourselves through experience that we're not going to die if we do the thing we're scared of doing.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's mental tricks to lead up to that. Like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen?
Mm,
Well, I'm riding this horse and, I don't know the horse and something bad might happen. Okay. Yeah, sure. All right. Or I'm talking to this person, or I'm going to have this deep conversation. I'm going to confront my husband in his sin against me, let's say. And I'm nervous about how that goes. Well, that's how it is until you're not. And the reason that you become not afraid is because you've done it enough to know nobody's going to die here. If things start heading south, like I've made all of the really bad mistakes, or maybe I haven't yet, but I've accepted that's part of the process. And
mm,
then I'm willing to step into that. So I take courage and do it scared, to your point.
mm,
And the more I do that, the more my body believes, oh, this isn't that big a deal. And then you can do whatever. Like you realize, this is, and you probably don't even realize it in the moment, but if you're asking yourself, what does this person need right now? How can I help? That's a confident question versus how do I get what I want? Oh my gosh, I'm starting to feel scared. What do I do? They're getting upset, and then personalizing, then okay, you're gonna lose all your confidence if you personalize stuff. You're gonna get triggered, you're gonna get emotional. But if you're a person that says, no, I'm going to sit in the leader seat, I'm going to take the leader path, I'm going to show up to help.
Mhm.
And whether you're on a horse that's anxious, um, or whether you're dealing with somebody else who's anxious,
Mhm.
it's like, how can I help here? What does love look like right here? So
Mhm.
and Christ, and if you listen to him, Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve.
Mm.
And that's the difference right there. How are we showing up in that moment?
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it's kind of like you said, it's the then what exercise. It's the, well, if this happens, then what? And
Hmm.
then you do it again until you've almost lived out that thing in your head where it's no longer overpowering you or intimidating
Hmm.
or the big monster in the room because you have, already walked it out. And also sometimes as you walk the thing out, you realize, like you said, you won't die. So that in itself eliminates a lot of fear once you get to the other side of the thing.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just love that because it's something that I think we don't want to do, but it's a thing that we often don't see the gift that it actually is when it
Hmm.
shows up in our lives. So, all right. So we didn't actually get to the three things. So I want to actually
Yeah,
say
yeah.
what we wanted to say, which was, there are three ways here that we think that you could show up confidently. And one of those ways is to recall what God says. We kind of mentioned it earlier. God has a lot to say about who we are in his word and your identity in Christ and how he created us and his purpose for us. So sometimes it's just reminding yourself of those things
Hmm.
versus what may be coming at you in your relationships and who people are expecting you to be or telling you who you are, and just referring back to what God says is sometimes the trick. Wouldn't you agree, Nina?
Oh, 100%. And how many times do we get in new situations and we completely forget all of it because it's so new and we don't know what to do? Like we choose to go do conflict and okay, we haven't done that before. And then it's, what a mess.
Mhm.
So realizing that it's just part of the journey and he's with us in it and we'll get better to keep trying. Like really, he loves us no matter how we are. So that's huge. So
Yeah.
when my kids were little, they would want to confront their friends with this, that, or the other, and they'd be nervous about it. And I would say, "You can borrow my courage." I had no idea what that meant, but if God is
Mhm.
telling us to take courage, I told my children, just take courage. Take my courage, take God's courage. You're not alone in this. I can go with you if you want to, or you can do this by yourself. And the boys were always, no, I'm good. I got it. Yeah. And they would, stand up taller and then walk in there. And then I don't like it that you took my truck or whatever it is. Um, but to your point, when we remember who we are,
Mm.
then we stop worrying about what other people think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And then the next thing is setting healthy boundaries, which, is kind of what we do here, Greater Impact. Um, can you talk about how that builds confidence as well? I'm sure there's tons of examples you could come up with.
Yeah, so we grow our confidence, we grow as humans about 4% outside our comfort zone. There's this really big, beautiful Percheron horse at the barn that 4 years old, he rears up. He's so huge and he's so beautiful. He's gray and black and speckled and just got he's incredible. And I've never ridden a horse that big, and I really want to ride him. And I
Mm,
think he's out of my league because he's so young. I don't understand the mind of a young horse. So I'm not going to go do that
mm,
unless there's a ton of safety guardrails, boundaries set up, with the people that are there. Like we wouldn't just throw them in a truck and let's go on a trail ride. Like that's not going to ever happen. Well,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like years from now, but to set myself up for success, I'm going to go, okay, what's just a little bit outside of what I'm used to? So when you start doing public speaking, for example, you don't try to launch yourself into groups of 10,000 audience members. You go for the Rotary Club, where
Mm-hmm.
there's 60, 80 people or something like that, or even smaller, right? And maybe you even start even smaller than that with your 12 member small group that you're couples. Like, can I test drive my speech on you? So you build this incrementally because you don't learn how to deep sea dive without all the steps that go into that. You have to have a skill set that you have mastered for confidence, true confidence, to
Mm-hmm.
actually show up. So you've got the mindset, which is I'm not thinking about myself, but then the depth of confidence comes from, do I actually have the skills? So you want to have the boundaries around, and we do this with our marriage intensive couples. We give them a boundary. You're going to talk about small conflicts first. You're not going to talk about his porn addiction. Not yet. You don't have the skill set for that. Can you navigate why the water bill didn't get paid? You
Mm-hmm.
know, can you navigate buying a new car, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And most people don't want to do that. They want to solve the big problems. It's like, why does that make sense to you that you have the skill set to do that? And so they go try and it blows up. And then that's a bigger hit to their confidence. They're like, we can't do this. And I'm like, "Well, that's because you didn't have a decent boundary for yourself. You're trying something too big. You're trying to run too far, climb too high. You don't have that skill set. You don't have the endurance. You don't have what's needed there. And that is like, I made confidence sound so easy. Just don't think about yourself. Well, just don't think about yourself in the space where you have skills already.
Mm-hmm.
You're set up to serve. You can actually bring something to the conversation or whatever it is. So you got to have that underneath the mindset.
Yeah. I'm imagining the setup you just gave about the number of people you're speaking to, if public speaking like frightens you. And I know that's one of the things that maybe Dale Carnegie taught
Yeah.
is, you don't think about yourself. You think
Hmm.
about the audience. You think about what is it that they need to hear, which like just gets rid of all of those jitters.
Hmm.
And I think it's brilliant because it's like the whole time you're nervous, it's because you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about messing up. You're thinking about saying the wrong thing. And if you just make that adjustment,
Hmm.
then you can actually deliver well. And so I love that. I think that's
Hmm.
true in all of these situations. It's
Yeah.
stop thinking about yourself.
There's actually double blind gold standard studies around this stuff done by Dr. Edna Foa. And they call it in secular psychology prolonged exposure therapy.
Mm,
And it takes 15 weeks to work out a fear that you have in a very specific area. And it's repeatedly going back into that space. They use it for soldiers with PTSD. You can use it for any kind of fear that you have, like you're afraid of elevators, like this is a place to start. There's people, Shy, that are afraid to be on a podcast. Like I've interviewed people that,
mhm,
right beforehand, they're like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like,
mhm,
okay, you don't have to,
mhm,
and we
mhm,
just work through whatever. And it's one person, right?
mhm,
Yes, everybody starts from a different place. But the thing about prolonged exposure therapy, the Carnegie method, what we do at Greater Impact is you're in an environment where you get to try and it's safe to fail.
mm,
So, and then your try is heavily rewarded. Good job. You showed up. You followed the format because you give them a format to help them be successful. You build their skill set and then they do the thing. And then it's like, wow, awesome. And so it's a really positive, safe environment where people can fail, kind of like, well, literally everything we do. It's not terrifying to go be in that space. And you do that enough, your
mm,
body's like, yeah, this isn't a thing. They're over it, your body's over it. And then it's easy after you've done it a few times to not be scared, to have the confidence because you're not thinking about yourself.
Wow. Which brings me to the last point. It's do the hard thing over and over and and over
Yes.
until your body's like, yeah, well, I've done this already.
Oh
So it's no
gosh.
big deal.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's, in Carnegie, you're given two speeches a night for 14 weeks or 12 weeks or however many weeks it is now. Like I have no idea. And we don't do speeches with greater impact unless we're doing the speaking course, but the same principle applies. You get the coaching, you practice in a safe space, and then you go do, and you do a small that you can actually do. You got to
Mhm.
walk that out and do the thing. I I had I think it was more than 4% of my comfort zone, but a number of years ago I was riding this horse that would run away with me when I was on him. And he was doing it on purpose because he knew he could mess with me.
Mm.
And I wasn't, he knew I was scared. Like that's what was happening there. And
Okay.
so my trainer had me ride him in the arena um, half an hour, and we would run, we would canter, and then he'd make me have him walk. And we did this for a half an hour, and it was awful. Like I was in tears, and then I stopped crying, like because he just kept again, canter, okay, walk again, just oh my goodness, over, and it was a half hour of this, and about 20 minutes in, I'm like, you know what? Nothing bad is happening. I can
Mhm.
stop being anxious. Like it's
Mhm.
taking a lot of energy to be anxious right now.
Mhm.
Okay. And I just relaxed. And then the last 10 minutes were fun. And it
Wow.
it was life changing. The trainer pushed me way outside my comfort zone that day, but he was also 100% sure that I was totally safe on this horse. And he was right about that. I just didn't believe it. And by the end of it, I did. So we need to learn that for ourselves. And God is like, yeah, okay, you're not listening. Let me help you. Let's do something really big and ugly and hard. And I'm going to walk this with you. You're going to
Mhm.
learn. You're not going to
Mhm.
die. I hate that.
Well, it's like also that we're safe with him. Like
Exactly.
as we're doing the hard thing, we forget God hasn't left his throne.
Hmm.
There's nothing we face on this side of heaven that is bigger
Hmm.
than God.
Hmm.
Um, and even if it doesn't go well, he's still God. He's already
Hmm.
factored that in. We're not powerful enough to screw it up or
Oh,
screw up our
amen.
lives.
Yeah.
Like all the things we forget when we're facing a hard thing is that God hasn't left. He's still there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's a bonus. That's a fourth thing.
Well, yeah, it is, but it's so true. And
Hmm.
as we change, then the relationships change. Yeah,
Hmm.
I was able to control that horse. And then after that, I rode him for another 6, 8 months. I would take him up to the field and he would run and he would not try to run away with me. And then I'd ask him to go faster. And that would make him so happy. But we moved into that space where
Hmm.
I was like, let her rip, let's go. And I wasn't scared, but he respected me. And we
Yeah.
had the really horrible experience where we both were changed in the relationship. Now he'll still do that to other writers, right? So, and he's great at leveling people up because you got to have that thing. And but you do that in your relationships too. It's like you get stretched, you get pushed, and if you walk it in, I always I always like to say that we train ourselves to listen to our horse trainer's voice, and Helga's really the Holy Spirit. We just kind of make fun of Helga being Jesus or whatever there, um, because he directs it exactly in the moment what you need to do, and
Yeah.
it's 100% on. Um, and if you follow that, you're good, right? And that's to your point about God always being with us, like just listen and do what He says. Just trust it. Just do what he says. Even if you're scared, do it scared, because that's what's necessary right now. You know,
Mhm.
ugh, it's exhilarating.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you might end up having fun if
Yeah,
you, if
yeah,
you're obedient.
yep, for sure.
Yeah. Well, this was good. Thank you. This was a good talk. So I hope our listeners enjoyed the conversation. So we invite you to check out our website again. We also have a Facebook page if you're interested in a community that you can join. And then our Strength and Dignity course we have on Facebook as well. So check us out in your free time and also check out the next episode for more info on how to show up well in your relationships. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.